Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for taking the time to look through this PowerPoint today and hear what we have to say about this new club on campus called Seton Hall Consulting Group. Just as an introduction, my name is Michael Riley, and I am the founder and managing partner of Seton Hall Consulting Group. And currently, I'm a sophomore here at Seton Hall. I would like to say that this idea crept up to me in the second semester of my freshman year, in about April. Once I figured out that management consulting was the career that I wanted to pursue as a lifelong thing. And so I also figured out that Seton Hall had a very little presence in consulting, and specifically didn't have a club or anything that was trying to promote it or help students bridge the gap between you know um, being here at Seton Hall and working for one of the top firms in the world. I would also like to introduce the rest of the board. Alonzo Arbulu, he is a senior here at Seton Hall. He is the co-founder and engagement director. Panos Logothetis, he's the director of growth. He's a sophomore. Surya Makar, director of external operations. He's also a sophomore. Stephen Katudao, director of internal operations, and Deanna Curris, director of marketing. So now to get into a little bit about the vision and the mission, I just went over it a little bit, but just to emphasize a little bit more how our primary goal is to bridge the gap between Seton Hall students, the consulting as a career, and further matching them with top firms in the world. There's going to be different opportunities to accomplish that goal throughout the next few years, and hopefully we'll start seeing a bigger network and a bigger alumni base at these top firms. We also want to teach exactly what consulting is, how to successfully navigate the interview process to land a job in consulting, which is a little bit different than typical interviews because there's something called case interviews, which we'll get into later, that are part of the interview process, and it tends to be the harder part of it. So we'll also get into that later. Also, how to successfully engage clients. So the reason why this is one of the teachings that we're going to have is because one of the two sides of our club is going to be client-facing engagements to really get hands-on experience, in consulting and in the business world in general. One of the benefits from this is that regardless of whether or not you want to actually pursue consulting as a career, these engagements will also allow you to just expand your skill set, analytically, in marketing, accounting or finance, because when you're consulting a business, you're really taking a look at every side of it, from top to bottom, trying to analyze, depending on what their case is, if they have profitability issues, or if, for example, they want to launch a new product, they want to expand their customers, or whatever the case may be. You're just learning about everything. So that's definitely a skill set that can be applied to any career down the road. So what is consulting? We would like to think that is problem solving. Consultants generally go into a business and advise them on how to fix their problems, or can also go into businesses that are doing great to help them do even better. These are examples of some of the top management consulting firms in the world. McKinsey is usually the most well-renowned worldwide, as well as BCG and Bain. And as you can see, and you might recognize the big four as Deloitte, PwC, EY, KPMG. The cool thing about them is that apart from being very heavy on in accounting, they are also expanding their reach into consulting. And as a matter of fact, Deloitte has become the fourth best consulting firm in the world right now. So these are also options to consider. Aside from these five and the other big four, there's many other smaller consulting firms. Some are even more specialized. For example, there's economic consulting, there's tech consulting, there's strategy consulting, there is cybersecurity consulting, so and much more. So there's definitely an opportunity for whatever your interest is to be specialized, and we'll get into some of that a little bit later as well. So as I said, consultants are generally problem solvers. If I could sum up, the job of a consultant in two words, it would be these. Simply because that's what they get paid for. They want to come in and solve businesses' problems. So just a couple of examples. The first Profits have been declining for the past 3 years. What are the root causes of this, and what can we do about it? So this is a very typical scenario for a consultant to encounter um, coming into a new project. Obviously they would have a lot more background information on the company itself, but this is when the company says, "Hey, this is my main issue. Profits have been declining. What can we do?" And so from there, consultants really just start their process of coming together as a team, brainstorming, also interviewing employees at these firms to get a better idea of how their processes work. And just also even reaching out to experts in the field that work for their firm. So, for example, McKinsey is working on this case. McKinsey has experts in a particular field related to this project, so they reach out to them to get even more insight. And usually, from those three things, and obviously even more, they start generating potential solutions and eventually present it to their client. So, another example would be we are launching a new product. What is the best go-to-market strategy? So an example for this would be possibly Apple coming up with a new device, and they want to reach as many people as they can. So they'll hire consultants to come in and ask them, analyze the industry right now, analyze consumer behavior, analyze the pricing strategy for this product, and come up with the best way for us to reach as many people as possible and ultimately sell as many of this product as we can. So these are just two examples. They're pretty basic. There's obviously a lot more that goes into them. There's definitely a lot of different scenarios that could come up, including mergers and acquisitions, which is when one company decides to combine with another company, or one company decides to acquire another company. Those are might sound like technical terms, but as you guys go along in your processes, we'll definitely you'll definitely be learning a lot, and these things will start sounding a little bit more familiar. So a typical question is, what is the day in the life of a consultant? Um, I would say from personal experience and speaking to a lot of different consultants, that the general answer is there isn't really a set day in the life. This has definitely advantages and it also has disadvantages. It really just depends on the person you are. In my particular case, I'm the type of person that likes to, meet a lot of different new people, do different things, and not really be stuck, in the same routine day in and day out. So this is what consulting offers, because usually consulting engagements last about 3 to 5 months. There's some that last longer, there's some that last less. But the fact of the matter is that consulting is project based. So usually, you're going from project to project, company to company, and following these processes. And definitely each company will be different, and all their problems will be different. Aside from that, one advantage that I would see in consulting is that you get to be exposed to a lot of different industries. And what that means is that when you get hired as a consultant, you enter as a generalist. So basically, that just means that you can be selected to join a project, in the aerospace sector, or in the retail sector, or in the manufacturing sector. It can really be anything, which gives you the ability to learn about a lot of different industries, learn the processes, the ins and the outs of each company, which ultimately allows you to figure out, maybe more of what you want to do or what you want to specialize in. So definitely one thing that I would like to stress in the life of a consultant is the travel. This is definitely something that you can't really escape unless you're working out of New York City, where you'll usually work with a lot of financial services clients. But usually, consultants will, be traveling to their client sites on Monday mornings and returning to their home offices on Thursday nights and working from that office on Fridays. So this is definitely something that's a common theme for most consultants. I would say, each company has their different way of approaching the travel situation, but it's definitely something that most consultants have in common, is that they're definitely traveling a lot. This definitely has a lot of advantages. For example, you live definitely a very glamorous lifestyle because you're staying at the best hotels. Usually your expenses are paid throughout all these trips, and you're accumulating a lot of airline miles and a lot of hotel miles, which can translate into free vacations down the road for yourself and for maybe your significant other, or if you have kids for, your family. Some disadvantages might be that, it might get tiring, over the long course of a year, or of 3 years. Traveling a lot might get in the way of, establishing a routine for yourself, but, it's honestly part of the job, and it's something that you can really embrace or look at it however you want. If you don't like traveling, then I would say that consulting isn't for you. But, I would say that being a consultant in general is just very advantageous, a lot of different ways that might outweigh the simple fact that, you have to travel a little bit. But the firms definitely make sure to keep, your work-life balance, as something important, and they have a lot of initiatives. For example, I know they give their employees sometimes a couple weeks off, in between projects, just so they can, you know, settle down for a little bit, sleep in their own bed for a couple weeks, and then go off to the next project. Or you can also request to be, in a certain place for a particular reason. For example, if you have something important coming up, you can definitely make arrangements for that. So they definitely do their best to keep your life flowing as smoothly as possible. Now, who could your clients possibly be? So I mentioned a little bit more about this earlier, where consultants not only work on companies that are failing, but also on companies that are doing very well. So as you can see in this graphic, there's Google, there's Nike, Sony, Fox, American Express, all companies that are doing amazingly well. Even though they're doing well, they also have their problems. But like I said, also, they consult them on how to be better, how to continue to improve, how to continue to acquire more market share, which basically means, how much of a market they own. A lot of different factors that come into being just a better business and continuing to grow, which is what consultants will, allow your company to do. Also, another point that I would like to stress about working with these top companies is that, when you go into a project, you're usually there for about 3 months, maybe more, maybe less. And during that time period, you can definitely take the opportunity to network with that company. So, for example, let's say I work for a consulting firm and I'm staffed on a project, at Google, and I really like the culture that they have there. I'm really interested in their product and what they do. Well, hey, let me network with, some of the executives that I'm speaking to, and possibly, land a job with them later down the road once I decide that, I want to move into an industry career or something like that. So it's definitely a good opportunity to meet tons of different people, expand your network, by a lot in the top companies in the world. And, as everybody knows, in business, it's all about the relationships you make, and consulting definitely allows you to develop the soft skills to make those relationships and to have the exposure um, to the people that you need to make the relationships with. So the career trajectory of a consultant. Typically, you start off as an intern. So basically, the way that the statistics are, about 50% of people, enter out of the undergraduate level, of consultants enter out of the undergraduate level. About 40% of them enter out of the graduate level, and about 10% enter as experienced hires. So definitely your best bet is to try to get, into the consulting career out of undergrad. And more specifically, from the undergraduate jobs, about 80% of them are internships and about 20% are full-time positions. So it's definitely an advantage to come into a company as a junior in the summer and intern for them, and most likely land a full-time position for after you graduate. So after you're done with that, you become an analyst. Like I mentioned earlier, you're generally a generalist, which means that you're exposed to a lot of different industries, and can learn a ton. And it's basically an extension of college. I would say a paid extension because, obviously you're going to be getting paid well and you're going to be learning a ton. Following that, you usually get an MBA. Now, the MBA is a little bit in the air. Most companies require you to get an MBA to continue moving up in their ranks. However, there are some companies that are more merit based, where depending on how you do and what you show, you can get to whatever rank you want with any degree type. Following that, an MBA, you usually become an associate for 2 more years, and after that, the possibilities are endless. So either you can stay in consulting and become a manager and possibly a partner, You can also, go into an industry job, like I mentioned earlier, or you can even start your own business. So if you think about starting your own business coming out of consulting, you had 3 years where you learned a ton about a ton of different industries and know businesses, back and forth. You had an MBA where you expanded that knowledge, but not only that, you networked with people that are as smart as you and even smarter than you. So it's definitely an advantage to have that network. And then following that, you worked 2 more years as an associate. So it's definitely a good time to, maybe connect with one of your old MBA friends and start a business. And you never know, it could be the next Uber or something like that. The compensation. So definitely, I wouldn't recommend going into any career for the compensation, simply because, money isn't always happiness, and you definitely want to choose something that you're passionate about. But it is definitely, good to know what you're getting yourself into, compensation wise. I would like to relate it to, the average salary coming out of college, which is about, 50,000, as opposed to generally about 80,000, starting off after college. And after that, it's successive. If you end up becoming a partner, your job shifts a little bit from actually consulting to trying to acquire business for the firm. So that's the difference between, a first year analyst and a partner. So now we're going to shift a little bit more into what this club actually is. There's two sides of this club. One side is the client-facing engagements, and the other side are the weekly meetings, which we'll discuss a little bit later. So firstly, the client-facing engagements. So this is actually a really cool opportunity because, as I mentioned earlier, you get to expand your skill set in consulting, in business in general. It's a great way to add something significant to your resume, and also you're making a difference in your community and can be a service project that you can speak to, in an interview, because the types of businesses that we're going to be consulting are small businesses, so like mom and pop shops and nonprofit organizations. So you're definitely going to see the fruits of your labor, and you're going to see these business owners that have been working so hard to take their businesses to a certain level, and you're just going to help them, improve that. And that's just going to make a difference in their lives, in the lives of their children. Or if you're working in a nonprofit organization, then, you're definitely going to see the fruits of your labor. If you're working, with an organization that works with homeless people, for example, you're going to see an impact there. So it's definitely going to be something that's dual-sided on the, experience of how to analyze a business from top to bottom, and also on the service side. Now, there's a couple of things that I would like to emphasize with the opportunity to be a consultant or an engagement manager, in our group, is that projects usually last 1 semester, and we're definitely going to require full commitment, just because you're representing yourself, you're representing the school, and you're representing the club. So we don't want to have any issues, and have a bad reputation on that side. And in order to be a consultant, you're going to have to pass a case interview process. It might sound a little bit scary, but we're going to guide you through it. We're all in this together. We're all working hard together. So it's going to be, an accumulation of work that will lead to your success in a case interview. So a little bit more into case interviews. This is definitely one of the top resources out there to accomplish them. If you guys email me at Seton Hall Consulting at gmail.com, I can send you guys a PDF version of this book. It'll tell you all you need to know about case interviews, how to solve them, how to successfully complete them. So definitely reach out to me as a form of initiative on your part, and I'll return the favor by, giving you this book, which usually costs money to have, but I have the PDF version. So the structure of how these consulting engagements are going to work. There's going to be an engagement director, which basically just manages the different engagements, makes sure that everything is going smoothly. In this particular graphic, it's an example of two projects at the same time. So engagement manager one will be working on a project with 2 or 3 consultants, and engagement manager two will be working on a project with 2 or 3 consultants. So depending on how much interest we have, from you guys, will depend on how many projects we get for the spring semester, and how many people we take as consultants, as an engagement managers. So these are some of the services that we might go into. It's basically, analyzing a business from top to bottom. You guys can pause it real quick and read through them, but it's definitely anything from strategy to their finances, to their accounting, to their marketing strategies, pricing new products, trying to acquire new customers. So everything like that goes into what our services might be like. So for the fall semester meetings, this fall semester is going to be a little bit different just because we're establishing ourselves on campus. Um, but from here on out, the fall semesters will be pretty directed towards preparing students to become a consultant, for Seton Hall Consulting Group. What that will entail is a very in-depth intro on in consulting, how to framework the cases and structure them in order to successfully, you know, give these our clients good solutions, professional skills so that you are, good at speaking with, our clients and also consulting firms and just professionally in general, and networking events and exposure to firms. So we want to give you guys the opportunity to speak with, real consultants and possibly recruiters and everything like that to, take your careers to the next level. This is all with the goal of successfully completing interviews for our client-facing engagement service line. In order to qualify, though, you're going to definitely need to show your commitment by coming to at least 70% of the meetings. In the spring semester, it'll be a little bit different, not too much, but it'll just be more case interview intensive in preparation for the recruiting cycle. So since the recruiting cycle is at the end of the summer, we definitely want to take the spring semester to get you guys, as strong as possible on your case skills. So, we'll have case competitions, we'll have case practice partners, and weekly meetings to cover different skills as well as networking in preparation for the recruiting. So this will have the goal of, obtaining an internship or a full-time job. However, students will also have the opportunity to interview to be a consultant for our client service line. One thing I would like to stress though is that if you're a student that, maybe this is what you want to do, maybe this isn't, and you go through our interview process, and you don't successfully complete it, it's definitely not something to say that, you're out of the club, you can't come back, we don't like you. No, it's really not that. It's just at this point we really want the most committed and the most, just quality over quantity, right now in reference to the amount of people we're going to take to be real consultants. Um, Both groups are going to be together all the time. It's going to be something where you're not going to feel like you're less than another person or anything. We're most likely going to be helping each other on the projects. If you're not a real consultant for us, you can definitely help out and see what the process is like, and that'll definitely help you to prepare for another interview and to continue being a part, of the club in whatever way, you see fit for yourself. Thank you guys so much for taking the time and looking at this PowerPoint. We really hope that this resonated with you and possibly interested you as something that you could do. We definitely want to emphasize that, we're a club that is going to push you guys and teach you guys as much as possible, but we definitely want to have a strong culture and a culture in which we all feel comfortable asking any types of questions, that may come up. You know, Feel free to reach out to any of the board members. We're all very willing to speak with you guys. We're all very excited, to hear of your interests and everything like that. If you would like to meet with me personally, I would love to do so as well. Just email me and we'll try to set up a date in the next couple of weeks. Um, More than happy to do that. Looking ahead, we're going to have a few events, possibly next week having a headshot day with the photography club, in front of one of the buildings here at school. That way you can get a really cool headshot. That isn't confirmed yet, but it is a strong possibility. Following that, we want to have, a few other events, including maybe some case workshops, possibly some networking events. So we're definitely working really, really hard, trying to give you guys the best opportunities to learn, to grow as professionals, to grow as students, to grow in your careers. So from freshmen to graduate students, we're welcoming all of you to participate, and just know that you guys are all very welcomed here at any point in time. So thank you so much for taking the time to go through this PowerPoint, and we look forward to seeing you at one of our next events.